Why am I even alive? This is not just a question. It is a cry that comes from a heart that has been bruised, from a soul that has forgotten its own light. There was a time when I, too, asked this question. Not once, but over and over again. When everything felt like it was slipping away. When dreams shattered like glass and the pain was louder than hope. But in that darkness, I discovered something beautiful. I realized that even the most broken parts of me were still mine. And that meant I had a choice. A choice not just to survive, but to live. To live with meaning. You are not alive just to exist. You are alive to learn how to love even after loss. You are alive to hold someone's hand who needs it more than you do. You are alive to fall and rise and fall again, because the rising is where your strength is born. Maybe today you are tired. Maybe you feel invisible. Maybe you think your story doesn't matter. But listen to me, you are the only author of your story, and the pen is still in your hand. Don't throw away your pages because of one bad chapter. This life is not about perfection. It's about purpose. It's about finding the light in the places you never thought to look within yourself. So the next time you ask, why am I even alive? Look in the mirror and say, to become the reason someone else doesn't give up. To be the proof that pain doesn't win. To live fully, bravely, honestly. Because you are still here, and that means your story isn't over yet. We are often taught to wear smiles like armor, to pretend we are okay even when we are falling apart inside. Society glorifies strength, but defines it in the most misleading way, as being unaffected, unemotional, and constantly resilient. But real strength does not come from denying your pain. It comes from having the courage to feel it, to sit with your sorrow, to admit that you are hurting, and to say, yes, this broke me, but I'm still breathing. That is not weakness. That is the beginning of healing. Acknowledging your pain is not giving up. No. It's opening the door to understanding yourself more deeply. Pain doesn't make you fragile. It makes you human. And every human being, at some point in their life, reaches a moment where they are forced to confront their suffering. Some hide it, some numb it. But those who are brave enough to face it, to name it, and to feel it fully, those are the people who eventually rise, stronger and more self-aware than before. There is profound dignity in admitting that you are not okay, but when we suppress our pain, we also suppress our growth. We rob ourselves of the opportunity to transform through the struggle. Pain has a strange wisdom. It reveals what truly matters. It strips away the noise and exposes what's left at the core of who we are. If you dare to lean into it instead of running from it, you'll find clarity in places you never expected. The wound becomes a window. And through that window, light eventually enters. It is easy to wear a mask and pretend everything is fine. It is far harder to look in the mirror and say, I am not okay, but I want to be. That kind of honesty with yourself is the highest form of strength. It means you are not afraid of your brokenness. It means you are beginning to understand that vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is its foundation. Your tears are not signs of weakness. They are proof that your heart is still soft, still open, still capable of feeling. And in that, there is so much power. So many of us grow up thinking that only perfect stories deserve to be told. Stories of achievement, of victory, of flawless lives tied up in neat little bows. But life doesn't work that way. Most of our stories are messy. They are layered with disappointment, loss, fear, and moments we wish we could erase. But here's the truth. It is not perfection that gives your story value. It is your honesty. It is your survival. It is the way you kept going even when everything inside you wanted to give up. That is what makes your story powerful, because it is real. You don't have to win awards, overcome the biggest obstacle, or be admired by crowds to matter. Sometimes the most meaningful stories are the quietest ones. The story of someone who got out of bed after a week of not trying, or who smiled for the first time after a season of grief. You see, your story isn't just yours. It's a mirror for someone else. Someone who feels like they're the only one struggling. When they hear what you've survived, they don't feel alone anymore. They see that it's possible to break and still be worthy of love. They see that pain can be endured and even transformed. We live in a world that tries to convince us to be like everyone else, to filter out our scars, hide our failures, and polish our pain until it no longer resembles anything real. But if you do that, you lose the very thing that sets you apart. You lose your voice. And your voice, the raw, cracked, beautifully imperfect voice of someone who has lived, is the one that someone else desperately needs to hear. You never know who is holding on by a thread, waiting for a single sentence, a single moment that reminds them they're not broken beyond repair. So don't discredit your story because it's not shiny or dramatic enough. Don't silence yourself just because your path doesn't look like someone else's highlight reel. Every moment you've endured, every emotion you've felt, every comeback you've made, they've all shaped you into someone with something important to say. You carry wisdom you didn't ask for, earned through nights you didn't think you'd survive. And that wisdom is gold. There's gold. You don't have to be extraordinary to matter. You just have to be true and trust that your story, exactly as it is enough. When life breaks you open, it often feels like everything is out of your control. The pain, the loss, the disappointment, they arrive without warning and stay longer than you ever imagined. And in those moments, it's easy to believe that you are powerless, that life is just happening to you. But even in the midst of chaos, there's one truth that remains: you still have a choice. You may not have chosen the pain, but you can choose how you respond to it. You can choose to stay down or to rise, even if it's shaky, even if it's slow. That choice is your power. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine. It's about reclaiming ownership of your life, one decision at a time. You can choose to breathe through the panic. You can choose to rest when you're overwhelmed, instead of quitting altogether. You can choose to speak kindly to yourself in a world that's already unkind enough. You can choose to heal, even when the wounds are still fresh, and even on the days when all you can do is survive. That too is a choice. A brave one, because survival in a world that keeps trying to break you is not passive. It is an act of quiet rebellion. Many people wait for their circumstances to change before they begin to live again. They say, when this ends, then I'll be happy. When I feel better, then I'll start over. But life doesn't work like that. The truth is, you have to start while you're still hurting. Still hurting, but still. You have to begin while you're still afraid. You have to choose growth, not because it's easy or convenient, but because it's the only way to move forward. Your healing will never be handed to you. You have to fight for it. And that fight begins with a choice, to keep going even without a guarantee. There's freedom in realizing that the pain doesn't get to write the rest of your story. You do. Then you don't need to know all the answers today. You don't need a 5-year plan or a grand comeback. All you need is one simple, quiet decision. I will not give up on myself. That's where transformation begins, not in dramatic leaps, but in daily choices. To feel, to keep breathing, to try again. No one else can make those choices for you. But the moment you do, you begin to reclaim the narrative. And that is when your healing truly starts. That we often underestimate the impact of simply being here. In the midst of our own struggles, we become so focused on what we lack, what we haven't accomplished, or how broken we feel, that we forget one simple, life-altering truth. Sometimes your very survival is inspiring to someone else. You may not know it, but your quiet resilience is being watched. That friend who sees you getting out of bed after days of silence. That stranger who notices the way you hold yourself up, even when your world is falling apart. They see you, and in you, they find the courage to keep going themselves. You don't have to be famous. You don't need a platform, a perfect life, or profound words. You just have to be real. And when you are real, when you allow yourself to be seen in your imperfect, unfinished, still struggling state, you give others permission to do the same. That's how hope spreads, not through perfection, but through shared humanity. Someone out there is waiting to feel less alone. And maybe, without even realizing it, you are the one holding that light for them. The way you've carried your pain without bitterness, the way you keep showing up, that matters more than you know. There is something incredibly powerful about witnessing someone walk through fire and still choose kindness, still choose love, still choose life. Wait, da. You don't have to tell others what to do. You just have to be. Sometimes, your presence becomes a message. If I can keep going, you can too. There is a unique kind of strength in those who have suffered and yet still choose to lift others up. If you've been through darkness and still managed to smile at someone else, still offer a word of encouragement, that makes you a living embodiment of hope. Maybe no one has told you lately, but you are already making a difference simply by being here. Even in your silence, you are helping someone feel less invisible. Even in your brokenness, you are showing someone that healing is possible. It's not always about grand gestures or big acts. Sometimes it's just about staying there. Choosing to live when you have every reason to give up. That alone is revolutionary. You may never hear the words, "You saved me," but that doesn't mean your existence hasn't quietly done just that for someone else. We live in a world that celebrates success, but rarely speaks about the falls that come before it. We admire those who seem strong and unshaken, yet we overlook the countless times they stumbled in the dark before finding their light. The truth is, no one rises without falling first. No one learns how to stand tall without first learning how to get back up. Falling is not the opposite of progress. It is progress. It's how we learn what matters. It's how we build resilience, not by avoiding failure, but by facing it and choosing to move forward anyway. Too often, we treat failure as an end. We tell ourselves that we've ruined everything, that we'll never recover, that falling means we weren't strong enough. But in reality, falling is a sign that we tried, that we cared, that we dared to step forward when it would have been easier to stay still. The people who grow the most in life are not the ones who avoid mistakes, but the ones who allow their mistakes to shape them, not with shame, but with purpose. Your fall does not disqualify you from rising. It prepares you for it. Every scar you carry tells a story, not of defeat, but of endurance. And with every fall, you gather something new. Humility, compassion, strength, perspective. These qualities don't come from a life that's untouched by pain. They come from choosing to rise even when your heart is heavy and your knees are trembling. Falling teaches us that we are not invincible, and that's a gift. Because only when we accept our own fragility can we truly understand the kind of strength that lasts. A strength that bends but doesn't break. So when you fall, and you will, don't rush to escape the discomfort. Sit with it. Learn from it. Let it show you what you're capable of. Every rise begins on the ground with the decision to try again. And sometimes, rising doesn't look like victory. Sometimes it looks like taking one shaky step forward. Sometimes it looks like breathing through the pain or forgiving yourself for not being perfect. These are not signs of weakness. They are evidence that you're still choosing life. And that, in itself, is a powerful kind of rising. It's a powerful kind of rising. There are moments in life when it feels like the story has already been written for you, as if the painful chapters define everything that comes after. You start to believe that because something went wrong, because you lost, failed, or were hurt, you no longer get to decide how the rest of your life unfolds. But that is simply not true. The pen is still in your hand. You may have written some chapters in pain, in confusion, or even in silence, but you are still the author. And as long as you are breathing, you can write something new. You don't have to erase the past to begin again. You don't need to rip out the pages that hurt. They are part of your book, yes, but they are not the whole story. Every great story has conflict. Every meaningful journey has detours. The question is not whether you've been through pain. The question is whether you will now pick up the pen and write something that reflects your truth, your healing, your becoming. You are not bound by what happened to you. You are free to shape what comes next, even if it's one sentence at a time. Many of us wait for some external permission to start living again. We think we need someone else to tell us we're ready, that we're worthy, that we can begin again. But no one else can write your healing. No one else knows the depth of your story the way you do. It's yours. Fully You get to decide how you respond, how you grow, and what you build from the rubble. You don't need to rush. You don't need to know the ending. You just need the courage to believe that your voice still matters, that your story is still unfolding. There is so much power in realizing that you don't have to stay stuck in the same chapter forever. You can write your pain into poetry. You can turn your silence into strength. Let even the smallest words you write today, words of hope, of truth, of survival, are proof that you're still creating, still fighting for your future. So hold that pen with intention. Write something that reflects your worth, not your wounds. You're not finished. The page is still blank, and you, my friend, still get to choose what it says next. There is a reason your heart is still beating, a reason your lungs still fill with air, even on the days when everything feels unbearably heavy. You may not know what that reason is right now, and that's okay. Sometimes it takes time to understand why we're still here, especially when life feels more like survival than living. But the very fact that you are still here, despite everything that has tried to break you, is not an accident. It's a sign that your journey is not yet complete. Your presence is still needed in a world that is aching for realness, for empathy, for people who have walked through fire and still choose love. We often wait for some grand purpose to be revealed before we believe our life has meaning. But maybe your reason isn't something loud or dramatic. Maybe it's in the small moments, the way you listen to someone who feels invisible, the way your laughter reminds someone else to smile, the way your quiet resilience gives someone the courage to try again. Maybe your reason isn't just about you, but about the ripple effect your life creates in others. You never know who is watching you learn, grow, fall, and rise again, and silently saying, if they can do it, maybe I can too. You don't have to save the world to have purpose. Sometimes waking up one more day and choosing to live with intention is enough. Choosing to speak with kindness when you could stay silent. Choosing to show up when everything inside you wants to disappear. These choices, though small, are powerful. They send a message to the world that pain doesn't win, that darkness doesn't get the final word. You are alive not because you've never been broken, but because even broken, you have something to offer. And sometimes the most shattered hearts become the safest places for others to rest. You rest. There is strength in simply existing when you've had every reason to give up. There is purpose in your scars, in your softness, in your survival. The world doesn't need perfect people, it needs honest ones. People who can say, I've been there. I've felt that, I've wanted to give up too. And that person could be you. You don't need to know exactly why you're alive. But trust that your life, your presence, your voice, your truth is not an accident. You are still here for a reason, and the beauty is that reason can grow, shift, and evolve as you. So if you're still wondering, why am I even alive? Maybe the answer isn't a single sentence. Maybe it's not something someone else can give you. Maybe it's something you're still meant to discover, piece by piece by piece by piece, through your own becoming. You are alive because someone needs your story. You are alive because the world still needs your softness, your strength, your voice. You are alive because even in your quietest moments, you carry a light that no one else can bring. And no matter how many times you've fallen, no matter how broken you felt, you are not finished. This life may never be perfect, but it is still yours. And as long as your heart beats, you have the power to shape it, to rise through it, and to make it count. So don't let the pain convince you that you don't matter. You do. You are alive. And that in itself is a reason worth holding on to. Thank you.